All right, welcome to Invert Aim. This is episode 2. I'm your host, Chloe Little Fiesty, and I'm here with Ryan. Do I call you Ryan Chinglish Dingle?
Ryan or Chinglish is fine. It's Chinglish TV.
Okay, and then Brendan. Mike, hi.
Oh, I don't even get a cool nickname.
What is your cool nickname?
Brendan 8-bit.
8-bit. You ate it.
I did 8 the bits.
You ate the bits. Excellent. Oh, we're back here for episode 2, and we're going to be breaking down, is esports too corporate? VR, virtual reality, is it a gimmick? Is it here to stay? And of course, something I'm dreading talking about, Andromeda Mass Effect. What's happening? Let's break it down later. But first off, what have you been up to this week?
Played a lot of PUBG, actually. That game is ridiculously fun.
PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, for those out there
who
that
don't
aren't
know.
aware.
I was going to get to that, but it's fine. Thank you, though, Brendan. Thank you. I got a private server now, so I'm super happy about that. So I'm able to play zombie mode, I'm able to play like the custom maps where I can change the drop rates and stuff like that of guns, or armor or anything, and it's ridiculously fun. A lot of fun.
What about you, man?
I have been playing a little bit of PUBG. I've been battling the elements known as the dreaded man flu, or the great flu epidemic of August 2017. So I've spent a lot of time not dying. And also not dying in PUBG, but sadly I still haven't got no chicken dinners, so I'm starving.
No chicken dinner yet.
Still a pretty little loser. That's all right.
Yeah.
I got a second the other day and it made me feel really upset because I thought the guy was behind me, but he wasn't. But he was hitting a wall behind me, so I thought the shots were coming from a different direction, and I thought the sound was. I just read it wrong. No, I
First
misplayed.
loser.
Get good
Number
scrub.
2,
I
yeah.
did, exactly. Get good scrub is exactly what I needed at that point.
What about you, Chloe Feisty?
I have been playing VR. I've been lost in Tilt Brush, and it is amazing.
What is Tilt Brush?
Tilt Brush is like your Paint Shop Pro almost, like your MS Paint, but for VR. So I've got the HTC Vive, and I'm rocking it, and it is the best.
Hell yeah.
VR, is it a thing of the past? Is it a thing of the future? Is it going to hang around? I'm really into it. What do you guys think of VR?
Stop being so gentlemanly.
So my thing with VR is this. I think that it's in a standpoint right now where there's not enough A-level companies or these big superstar companies that have put out titles that sort of make it worth it, right? It's quite a big investment. It does cost quite a lot of money to get like a decent setup. You need a decent computer as well to be able to run it, obviously when you're looking at PC stuff. But the main point for me is now we have some titles.
Yes.
That are coming. So that's obviously, we've got games come on right now. We've seen some sneak peeks. Maybe that's what it needs. So
yeah, it's good in the way that there is big developers getting behind VR finally, like Bethesda have come out and since confirmed obviously Fallout 4, Doom VR, as well as Skyrim VR. And they're also all slated to be released by the end of 2017, which is pretty exciting. VR, I think to me, it's still in that early adoption phase. I think
100%.
You hit the nail right on the head where there isn't a huge slew of AAA content out there available. Like the biggest one to throw their hat in the ring was Capcom with Resident Evil 7 at the start of this year, which is fantastic, by the way.
Yeah.
In PSVR, it's a must play. I nearly pooed myself a few times.
I will say, I've been streaming for 4.5 years full time, and I've tried every scary game that's come out, right? And I did a little bit of the Resident Evil stuff, and people get angry at me because I don't get scared playing Outlast and Outlast 2 and stuff like that because I don't.
You're too tough.
It's not that. It's just you can sort of tell when a pop scare is going to come. You know what I mean?
You mean
so
a jump
someone
scare?
jumping. Yeah, pop scare, jump scare, whatever you want to call it.
Pop
You think that the music's a little bit telling?
Exactly right. You can always sort of tell, and when it happens, my thing is I'm too fat in real life to run away. So if something like that was to happen, I don't want to die in a cupboard trying to breathe, like running away from some serial killer, just hiding in the cupboard going, I hope he doesn't find me. So my translation for that is I'm not going to run away in the game. So I just don't get frightened.
So due to your physical limitations, you've removed fear from games because you think, if they find me, I'm dead either way.
I'm done.
Because I'm a little bit more of a hefty gentleman.
Thank you for the
But
kind
are you just going to roll over? Or are you going to
I'm going to put him up. I'm going to bang it. If I
you're
lose, I'm dead. That's
You're going to give it a red hot go then?
Yeah, I'll have a crack.
That's right.
And then if I lose, that's it. I'm not dying puffed out. I don't want to die trying to breathe, just going, help me, Jesus. No, that's not what I want.
Just leave a beautiful corpse.
That's it. I want to look pretty when I die. But my point being, Resident Evil VR was phenomenal. I also almost pooped a little bit.
Yeah, it's certainly one of the games of the year for me personally. VR is getting a lot more and more accessible now. The HTC Vive this week has since done a further price reduction of another $200 US. So it's becoming more and more of a feasible option for the gamers out there. Obviously, the PSVR is sort of the cheaper entry-level, quote-unquote, system to get in, or if you're talking really cheap, you can get the Samsung Gear VR, which obviously uses your phone as most of the intelligence, and it just straps onto the front of the headset.
But I would actually argue that's not actually VR.
No, I wouldn't either.
It's not virtual reality.
It's
more just
nowhere near
augmented
as
reality
immersive as PSVR, as the Vive and the Rift. It's weird though, because the Rift you don't really hear much about anymore. It's sort of fallen by the wayside. Like the Vive is
the Samsung one does have a lot of good qualities though. Like obviously, if you're at home and you're alone and you're going to use your phone for something, VR makes it quite the experience.
Yes. I have to say, I've got the HTC Vive and I love it. Ever since I picked it up, my whole living room has just become a dedicated space to VR, and I am praying at the altar. I love it.
It is the premium headset / handsets as far as VR goes. As far as sales figures goes, PSVR have surpassed 1 million units sold. The HTC Vive has sold 420,000 units, and the Oculus is at very distant last with 243,000 units sold, thereabouts. But the one that's run away with it is actually the Samsung Gear. 5 million units have been sold. But obviously,
that's the price point.
$100.
It's 100% the price point. Yeah. Like, it's just a good way to get in.
And the fact that it came with the phone. Like with my S8, I was given an S8 and it came with the phone, so we didn't have to do anything.
But that's a great way to corner the market,
absolutely,
right?
Absolutely. It's very smart.
Very smart, yeah.
How much time have you spent with it? Do you get a lot of motion sickness when you are engaging in these games too heavily or for prolonged amounts of time? Because I do.
Yeah, I'm actually curious because like I haven't had any motion sickness whatsoever. I've been playing lots of the indie games. Obviously, as we've been talking about, there's that lack of AAA titles, which is, I think, the next frontier for people to get involved.
I think that's exactly right. Like it's these big A titles that are going to really give us that push to maybe even want to go out and get the setup for it for VR. Like for me personally, out of the three, I think it's probably going to be Skyrim.
Skyrim is the one
would probably be like Fallout's obviously going to be huge, and Fallout's a phenomenal game. Doom, I'm like whatever. Like with Doom itself, like I played Doom. I got a little bit over it. Like the animations of the deaths and stuff like that were really cool. But once you've seen it 20 times because you're killing so many mobs, I got a bit over it, and I guess it would be the same with VR. But Skyrim looks like it could be absolutely awesome. Well,
Skyrim is that immersive game, you know, it's like with all the mods, and I really hope they keep that modding community actively involved. Because, you know, I love like the little lock-picking mini game, but there was like this great mod that I got from the community where it's like I'm a barbarian and I can actually just use my brute strength to like just hack it a lock, and it's like that's the most immersive way to play.
Those little bits would be cool though, like physically seeing your hands in front of you, you know, using the lockpicks and things like that. But I worry with the rigidity of the movement is where a lot of the illness comes from. Like I've played a fair amount of VR, and a lot of the games, like you'd call them glorified tech demos at the moment. You know, they're 20-minute or a 30-minute experience, and you go into whatever universities they've painted for you. You feel like you're in the ocean, or you're Batman, or you're racing a car, whatever it might be. But then you put it down. You don't play for prolonged periods of time. There's only one game, apart from Resident Evil 7, that I've played for prolonged periods of time, called Here They Lie on the PSVR, and that game I've nearly vomited a few times just from the aggressiveness of the movement and just the animation style. And the game itself knows that it's hard on the body because there'd be screens that would pop up sometimes and say, take a break, have a rest, you might be sick, go for a walk, get some fresh air. And that's where the disconnect's going to be when especially with Skyrim, like imagine running around, real fierce sort of sword swipes and casting and things like that. Like, I wonder how that's going to translate. Like,
just passively.
How many
bushes.
How many vomit piles are there going to be from these games?
Look, I'll get my bucket ready. Like I am so ready for Skyrim. Like this is the game. Like when I played Skyrim the first time, this is what I always dreamed about. It was the VR, the next level, and the fact that it's coming. Like I'm just calling me excited. Right?
Yes, I think you just got to look at shorter gaming sessions. I think that'll be the bigger thing, right?
But that's hard, especially a game like Skyrim. I like to sit and play for like 6, 7, 8 hours straight and just get in there and feel that universe.
I think it's definitely going to be more. You're going to have to work out a way where you can sit down and play. You know, as opposed to the traditional standing up VR where you're sitting there trying to run around, do all those types of things. People are going to need to work out a system if they want to do long gaming hours in regards to VR, where they can sit down and sort of have their way of playing.
And they need lighter headsets. Like prolonged periods of time with the Vive on or the PSVR can strain your head and your neck. Like it's not a heavy bit of kit by any means, but you notice it. Like it's very noticeable, especially if you've got headphones on, you've got cables hanging off you. Like it's great tech, but they just need to try and refine it a little bit more, I think.
Well, no, I agree with you. I mean, I've just been lost in the excitement. There's this one game, and I'm dying because I can't remember the name of it right now, but it's this little indie game, and it's like a little 20-minute platformer like you just described. And you're hacking and slashing, you're picking your weapons, you can shoot, you can use the bow and arrow, and like to dodge, you physically have to move out of the way. And, you know, I played that twice back to back, and I was not tired. I could have just stayed up and just kept playing it, or I just wanted more of that game.
Yeah, I might skip some of the more physical activity ones. Okay.
But you know, maybe they'll just
things to do.
places to be. But maybe it's just the way that they roll out the missions. Maybe it's just more mission based and more quest based, where it's like, here's a 20-minute path.
Platform.
Yeah, and it's like it's available too if you want to play in that way. But if you're more into, you know, a short little run, that might be a cool way to get around it.
But it's exciting. I think it's still very much in its infancy and it's not going to go anywhere. I think it's certainly here to stay. And as they start to progress into augmented reality, obviously where they're splicing in then real world, like similar to Pokemon Go is, I guess, the easiest example that's probably relatable to everybody, where you can use the tech and then superimpose things into the real world, that you see in front of your own eyes. So that's the next big step. But I'm pretty excited. I love it. Like, I've got a PSVR. I've got all the games on it. Hella fun.
Before we wrap up this subject, what would be, if you could have any game in the world on VR and it would be done well, what would be the game? And this is for you guys as well. What would be the game that you would pick? I've got two options in my mind.
You can only pick one.
Give us one.
1080 snowboarding.
I was going to say California games.
Yeah, something like that.
I was going to say bring California games back. Postal.
Yeah.
Jesus. So much violence.
Yeah, that would be intense.
That would
Postal
never get
like
released here in Australia.
Yeah.
Never, ever.
Postal was pretty much like a serial killer game. It was like banned in Australia. We just absolutely... Probably not a good idea. Let's go with 1080 snowboarding, but Postal would be fun.
Now, I'm down for some California games. I want to play virtual reality hacky sack and hit that hacky sack and watch it hit the seagull as it flies past. I want that in my life. But what do you guys think? Maybe hit us up on the socials at Invert Aim. Drop some suggestions of games that you think would be perfect to translate into the VR world.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it more next week once we get some responses. All right, guys, it's time to unpack a subject that is very near and dear to at least two of our hearts, and that is the ill-fated release of Mass Effect Andromeda that was released earlier this year across multiple platforms to much controversial debate and discussion, I dare say. I thought it'd be good to talk about Mass Effect Andromeda because they've since come out this week and confirmed that there will be no single-player DLC to come for this beloved title. So they've scrapped all single-player content. This is the first time in the franchise's history there will not be any single-player DLC expansions. It's left a community pretty pissed off out there, myself included. I'm a huge Mass Effect fanboy, but I guess I can understand where this stepping back from the franchise has come from. I know you're a big ME fan as well. You know, we've got a bit of paraphernalia here on the table from the franchise.
I thought it was from Halo, to be honest.
It's an Omni Blade.
You hurt me. Stop.
Yeah.
It's definitely not from Halo. So
I thought it was his little Warblade thing that he uses.
Yeah, it's an Omni Blade for those out there that aren't as ignorant as
Is this from
Brian
Scuffdometer
Dingle.
that came out? Is that one? Scuffdometer? Is that
No.
good?
God, I hate you.
No.
Nailed it.
No.
So the game itself, it got reviews on Metacritic anywhere from 71 through to 76. So it's not a bad score by any means, but on its release, the reception was pretty poor. There was some pretty rough animations, whether it be low-res sort of character modeling on the faces, some of the walking styles, some of the voice work wasn't really up to snuff. And it got a lot of flaming off the internet, as the internet does for anything. I played the game front to back, loved it. Yes, there was some bad looking things in there. Didn't take away from the game. You know, I look at it from a holistic point of view. What do you think? I know you're a fan. I know you haven't touched Andromeda, but I guess you're sort of Switzerland in this regard.
Yeah. Look, Honestly, I played the
smug
press
son of a
release, the press release demo, and I had a great time. I really enjoyed what I saw in the demo. Obviously, I had like the intro, and then they took us to like further on in the story, and so obviously those bits were quite polished and quite slick, and yeah, and as it came out, I kept hearing more and more reviews from people's opinions that I trusted, and it just sort of started dropping off my priority list. And instead, I found myself just playing through Mass Effect 2 again instead of playing through Andromeda. So, you know, I haven't played it yet, but, you know, based on what I've heard, it's less of a priority.
You look like you want to say something over there, old smarty pants.
Okay, here's my thing with this game, right? We're not talking about some small company. We're talking about a monster company with a monster title that has done really well in the past. The game itself, the actual gameplay, was phenomenal. The story behind the gameplay was really, really good.
I'll agree.
Right? I watched a lot of streamers play it. I played some of it myself. That game shouldn't have been released. It was not ready to actually get released. That's my thing. We're not talking about a small company. I don't know what game they were trying to beat. I don't know what their playtesters are doing. I don't know how it got through.
I disagree that it shouldn't have been released. They did release a very rapid patch to fix some of these animations,
Absolutely,
literally like a fortnight in.
But how much
after the
damage was
release
already
date.
done is my
That's what I was gonna
question
say.
to that company. Is
but-
and again, please, like I'm not saying that it's a crap game. I'm saying that the things that got released on actual release of that game wasn't fair to the customer, because it's like I can sit here as a fan of games, not a huge fan of Mass Effect, and just be like, no, I don't care if his face is a little bit droopy while I'm playing. But that's not the conception of a lot of people, right? Like,
Yeah,
for me, it doesn't ruin a game.
The
if
vast
it's a little bit
majority
crap.
of this hatred has come from just internet bandwagoners that barely even play the game. They just see it and
Yeah.
they'll grab a screen cap and then they'll just pan it. And that's where the problem lies. Like, I've spoken to a lot of people that have played this game and they all say it's great.
Yeah.
They say, yes, there is a few warts to start with, or if they've played after the patches, they say it's great. Irrespective, there's no warts. But the fact that the internet just ran with a few of these animations, and yes, some of the running animations are pretty bad.
Yeah.
They're fantastic, actually.
You know, meme culture went mad with this.
My
Yeah,
favorite
I
thing
feel
with this
that.
whole thing was like people saying like or showing one part of a game where it's like a voice acting will be a little bit off, right? Or there'll be like a bit of a warped face, and people are like, the game's ruined.
Yeah.
This is the worst thing I've ever played in my entire
But the
life.
thing is that they've gotten past that. I mean, they got Dinklebot fired, you know,
Someone got fired.
for Destiny.
Yeah,
Like,
Peter
yeah.
Dinklage got fired
He's
from voicing the
scrubbed.
Ghost.
It's a really harsh world out there, and it's like, are we giving our customer base too much control?
I
Like,
agree.
To
I
get rid
100%
of
agree that.
Dinklebot, you know, like, and then, you know.
They sold over 1 million units in the first week of launch. They've since come out and said that Mass Effect Andromeda was the driving force for their most successful quarter in BioWare's history. They grew 32% in the quarter. So year-on-year growth increase of 32%. So they raised $681 million US in that quarter when it was released. Obviously, there's other games in there, FIFA's in there and things like that too. But for them to stand behind it and say Mass Effect was one of the driving forces of this, it shows that the game still moved a lot of units, and I know that's probably a lot to do with pre-orders and Skull
I'd like to see
fans
the
myself
return.
yeah.
included.
I'd like to see how many were returned. If anyone can find that out there, I'd really like to find out how many units were returned within the first week.
I mean, but as you said, like the storyline and the characters and everything about it was still compelling and still everything
Yeah.
that you expect from a BioWare title. So it's just unfortunate that it got slammed so hard, as you said, like people jumping on a bandwagon. And, you know, it deterred me, and it probably shouldn't have, because I love Mass Effect as a franchise.
And like the franchise, some of it, because you can customize and create your own character, like there's no way in hell that they can have that amount of variables to make everything look exactly normal. Like you can make your character look as freakish and as alien-like and as unique as you'd like. Then to expect them to animate all as smoothly, like come on now, like have some realism in your expectations. And now, like as you said from the internet, like this pile-on mentality has been the downfall of this game. Like this franchise now is shelved. Like it is now on infinite hiatus. This is going to be the next new trilogy. They were going to try and launch off into this new galaxy, new characters, new alien races, and what have you. And now, I guess yes, there is some missteps on their behalf they need to take ownership for, but I think society in a whole has been probably the biggest driving factor in getting this game potentially scrub from the future.
Do you think it would have helped if they shelved it for a couple of weeks just to fix things?
I think so, but no doubt they've got a boardroom full of shareholders that they need to appease and get a game out on time. It's a dollars and cents thing. You can't have constant delays, and the game was already delayed. It was meant to be out in late 2016, and it got pushed back to March of 2017.
And there was something else coming out relatively close. I want to say something to do with Fallout, maybe.
It was
That was something around that same time where they had to. So I remember them trying to get out the content before other things. But I think you guys sort of hit the nail on the head when you're looking at, with something like this, now that Mass Effect has been shelved, I think that you're looking at where the customers maybe have, or the internet sort of backing behind these sort of, pylon campaigns, as you said, they have a little bit too much power now, which can be quite a scary thing, because for the most part, like, even I give the game a lot of crap and I call it scuffdometer, but like, the game itself was actually quite good. It just had a lot of small errors which realistically don't ruin the game for you.
No,
you know what I mean? Like, sound being a bit weird or someone's animation being a bit weird doesn't necessarily make the game. For me, if I play through a game and I see that stuff, I sort of have a laugh, right? But they're not trying to please me. They're trying to please, millions of people that are buying the game. So,
yeah, I think for the true fans, it didn't break the game for them. Like, I played the whole campaign front to back. I do, I guess, have rose-tinted glasses to a degree because the franchise is very dear to me, but I can still take them off and be subjective enough to go, okay, no, this game is broken, or this is crap, or this is taken away from my experience. And there was a few times when I was like, ooh, that's a bit on the nose, but I never once went, man, I'm going to put the controller down because the way that girl walked down the steps is not realistic enough. But yeah.
That lilted her step, totally unimmersive.
Yeah, but we'll see, BioWare now, BioWare Montreal, who championed this game, half the team got taken off to pivot towards Anthem, which is their next big AAA blockbuster that they're throwing all their eggs in. So I'll be very curious to see how polished that is when it comes out at launch.
all right, the last thing we're going to talk about today is esports becoming too commercialized / controlled in a sense of how big it's growing and how commercialized, obviously, esports is getting. In regards to maybe talking about players and maybe talking about how some of the esports teams have to be. Obviously, we're looking at prize pools now of millions, multi-million dollars these days. We're not looking at sort of a couple of $100,000. Is that now affecting esports a little bit too much, where it's becoming a little bit too corporate, where players can't be excited, players can't necessarily be hype on stage? Obviously, there's no swearing and stuff like that. That's a given when you're talking about a multi-million dollar thing being televised and everything. But is it becoming too constricted?
I think it is to a degree, but then I understand it from a business point of view, especially with the more that sponsors are getting involved and there is corporate dollars getting thrown in. Obviously, you want your team members, or I guess you could call them staff, they're your employees. You want them to act a certain way to represent your brand. So I can understand why they do try and, I guess, create a bit more of a straight path that they have to sort of follow, and a line they've got to toe, whether it be how they act, how they dress, how they look, how they talk. So I can understand it from that point of view. I can understand as well the frustration that comes from that.
So an example, obviously, I know you were there as well. Yeah. So Overwatch World Cup, to set the scene, we're at the Overwatch World Cup. A lot of us were all there. And there was a Swedish player that played for the Swedish team, obviously, for the World Championships, and they won quite a tight set between the other team. And he jumped out of his chair when they won. He's running around. There was a camera that was right next to him, and he's like cheering into the camera and stuff like that. And he had to do a formal apology, saying sorry for his behaviour and sorry for the way that he acted. Yeah. When it gets to stuff like that, that's where I sort of feel like it scares me because of how big esports is getting, where players can't. I was sitting there watching it. And this dude did nothing wrong. No. He did 100%. Literally nothing. He literally just jumped up, was excited that they made through a good set, made through a good match, and he was hype. He wasn't rude towards anyone. He didn't flip off anyone. He didn't do anything like that.
It was actually
he was just happy.
It was a really positive engagement. Yeah. And I remember a lot of the people in the crowd were like saying, like, who is that guy? Finally some interaction with the cameras and the crowd. And it really made him endearing to us, and it made me want to go, like, who is this player? I'm interested in his personality as well as his great game. But it's giving those players the opportunity to be individuals, which is something else that people follow players for. It's like, yes, I can follow number 1 Lucio in the world or number 2 Lucio in the world, but if I like number 2 better,
exactly. Like fans like to attach themselves to a team, and then as you said, like in esports or general sports, everyone's got their favourite player out there and they want to get their jersey and everything else like that. And the fact that they, I guess, are putting a gag order on personalities in that regard, I don't think that's fair. I agree if they are like literally running up to people, flipping the bird in their face or being disrespectful. Yeah, come on.
Call of Duty, pretty much.
But like when he literally just got up and was cheering and, you know, like getting behind his teammates,
I think he high-fived his teammate.
Yeah.
Like, that was the extent of his...
And it was at the end of a set.
Yeah.
So that they weren't playing another match. They were about to go on a break. So it wasn't like they're leading straight into a match. He got up halfway through. Another example, I guess, is we spoke about it earlier, someone from SK1 or SK Telecom, I think they called it, Korean League of Legends team.
From LoL.
Yeah, so Bang from League of Legends. He got he had to do, again, a huge apology for saying something he was streaming over a year ago, and someone said a comment to him that was quite rude, and his response was quite blatant and talking about how much money he earns because the guy was trying to give him crap about a teammate earning more money, and he had to formally apologise for responding to someone because he made a comment over a year ago while he was streaming. See, that worries me. Like, stuff like that I think is really, really sad because like these guys are now in a situation where even if they stream, they can't be themselves in any way, shape or form.
No, their
like,
image is controlled by the team owner or the sponsors, and it'd be rough.
It's really policing everything about you, and unfortunately that's the world we live in with social media. It's that every moment's recorded, everything can be dragged up, as you said, from a year ago. Like, that's, you know, he might have a totally different outlook today, and you wouldn't know because, you know, he's been held for the transgressions of his past.
And he didn't even say anything bad. He was literally just responding to someone being a bit of a dick in the chat.
He defended himself, really.
And that was it. He got in trouble. Obviously, we've had other instances where players have not worn their jerseys and they get like a $2,000 fine. I think there are some examples of where like we can sort of understand a little bit better.
That's fair enough. Like if you're paid to represent a team or a brand and you roll in and just a standard generic bit of kit and everyone else is in their uniform, like of course. I think they're well in their rights to reprimand you or fine you or dock you, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, to me, that just harks back to traditional sports. If you don't rock up with your jersey, you're not allowed on the field.
Yeah.
And then you haven't, you haven't even met the obligations of your contract.
Exactly.
You know, like
We've had players flip off other players.
Yeah. Well, poor sportsmanship. I have no tolerance. I have zero tolerance for like poor sportsmanship. Yeah. But like having a celebratory moment after a big win, you know, like.
But do you think we're looking at the situation now where it's a lot like with I'm not a big soccer/football fan, whatever you want to call it, right? But I know that they're very, very strict now in, say, NFL, where you can't celebrate if you score a touchdown.
Yeah.
I know in soccer, if you like score a goal, you can't take your shirt off and run around anymore or something like that, otherwise you get a fine. I would hate to see it becoming a bigger thing now with esports being such a force now. There's no denying it anymore. Esports is going to be massive and already is.
Yeah.
But I don't want to see this thing where, you know, that's the thing for majority of us when we play games, and especially if you play in a competitive setting, that hype of when you win a match or whether you're playing at pro level, whether you're playing at small level with your friends, that hype is one of the big things that makes esports what it is and makes it so much fun. And I would hate to see these players that a lot of them are kids. A lot of these players are kids and they want to be excited.
How dare you enjoy what you're doing,
exactly,
you're a child.
Right? Like,
and I think you should be allowed to celebrate success because you've worked your guts out and you've just come out on top. I mean, it's important, especially as a team, it's really important to celebrate success as a team to like grow together.
Like for me personally, I'm really interested to see what people out there have to say. Have they seen this a lot? Is it something that you're worried about as well? Obviously, when we're seeing these major $1 million sponsors now backing these things like McDonald's and Coca-Cola, are you worried that that's going to be a factor moving forward with esports? Have you seen it? I'd love to see some more examples.
So that's a wrap from us at Invert Aim. I've been Chloe, this is Ryan and Brendan, and don't forget to hit us up on Twitter and social media with your thoughts on some of our topics this week, and we'll catch you next time. See ya!
Much love.